Hello and welcome to another episode of OnReviewCast. I'm your host here, Ash, and it's the anime edition. This is OnReviewCast Anime. And today on review, we're taking a look at JuJutsu Kasien 0, the movie. So let's get it. JuJutsu Kasien 0 on review. JuJutsu Kasien 0. All right. So, just before we get into this, I guess, man, I haven't watched JuJutsu Kaisen in a really long time, since I guess season 1 maybe ended. So it's been a little bit for this, but I guess I don't even really know how to start this off because it's the first time I'm doing an anime section for the channel. But let's see if we can maybe get maybe some kind of maybe how we do it, the formatting for the regular show, how we give a synopsis of basically what it basically is. So this movie is essentially Jujutsu Kaisen 0, and it's mainly, hang on, I don't know if you guys are aware of exactly Jujutsu Kaisen anime, but it follows the story of, essentially it follows the idea of basically cursed spirits. But here's a synopsis courtesy of fandom. The story of Jujutsu Kaisen is set in a world where cursed spirits feed on unsuspecting humans, and fragments of the legendary and feared demon Roiman Sukuna have been lost and scattered about. Should any curse consume Sukuna's body, the power they gain should destroy the world as we know it. Fortunately, there exists a mysterious school of Jujutsu sorcerers who exist to protect the precious existence of the living from the supernatural. And but I guess just jumping into this, honestly, anybody who's seen this movie so far, and spoiler alert, guys, we are going to basically spoil. We're going to be talking about the movie, so if you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead and watch it and then come back and listen to this. But we're definitely going to be talking, because we're talking to anybody who's familiar with this, in a nutshell, that's basically what it's about. But I'm really here to talk about this movie, and if you're watching this movie, you've probably seen up to season 1, which ironically, going through the movie, and if you've seen the movie or you're a fan, you would essentially know that you don't necessarily need to see season 1 or the anime at all, if I'm being honest. Not really to enjoy this movie or to get a sense of basically what's happening. That's the genius basically behind this. Cause the anime is basically, that was a quick synopsis there, but the anime is basically, let's talk about the anime real quick, since we've never really done an episode on this. The episode basically centers around, it's a typical shonen anime, and it centers around the main character, and his name is Yuji Itadori. So it's centered around him, Itadori, and he's basically what happens, a quick synopsis, deep in-depth episode, I guess, of episode 1, is that he finds himself living as a normal high school teenager, just as much like these shonen anime basically do, and he finds himself with his ailing grandfather. Essentially what happens is that somehow he finds Sukuna's, I'm assuming it was a Greek sorcerer, but Sukuna's cursed basically object, because Sukuna is the cursed object, and he finds his fingers, and he I know it's weird, right? And he ends up eating them and gaining being semi kind of sort of possessed by him. But Itadori is this strange character that's able to kind of somewhat control Sukuna and his abilities, that he grants him, kind of like if you watch Naruto, how the demon fox, like in the beginning, at least for sure, like Naruto didn't really have any control over the demon fox, and how it kind of like sort of gave him strength in times of need and X, Y, and Z. But focusing on this movie has nothing to do with Itadori. And if you're an anime fan, you've seen the show, you know what the show is about. I don't know, I don't know if it was just me, but that was shocking, but also really cool, because it shows that this material, this IP, can basically stand on its own. It doesn't necessarily need to focus on the main character that is Itadori. In the JuJutsu Kaisen, where it doesn't need to stand on the shoulders of this one main focus-centered character. From the days of Dragon Ball Z and the days of Naruto, even Bleach, all these shonen anime, they kind of have this whole perspective of like, let's focus on a main character, and like he's the star, like he's gonna be the main focus, he's gonna be the one that's putting, like, you know, butts in the seats. He's the one that's you're gonna be wanting to drive towards and focus on. But this movie, and it looks like what they're doing so far, because I did jump into episode 1 and 2 of the anime for season 2. We're going to talk about that in the next episode of OnReview Podcast. This movie does something that's so amazing. It doesn't show the main character at all, which I thought was Yuji Itadori. It doesn't show him at all, and that's, to me, I've never seen that. And again, it just might be me freaking out about it, or me essentially thinking that, like, yeah, like, I don't know, I may be making a bigger deal about this, and there's a lot of big deals in this movie, honestly, in my opinion, but like, I might be making a big deal about this overall, but again, it'd be this is spoiler alerts, but like, Yuji Itadori is not in this movie at all, and I find that fascinating. I find on just watching that level, I found that fascinating. And even when I was going through the movie, I was thinking to myself, all right, and I was like halfway through the movie, and I was kind of like, I don't think they're gonna show him. I don't think they're gonna because the first season of the first season of the show is completely about Yuji Itadori and how he has to deal with Sukuna and how he goes on the missions and how they explain this whole sorcerer's world. It's kind of like basically, and if you've never seen the anime before, if you've never seen this first episode or first thing that you've ever seen in terms of like JuJutsu Kaisen, they explain kind of all of this in the movie, sort of to some degree, but not to a point. It's funny, they don't do it to a point where it's so annoying. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not, they don't do it to a point where it's so annoying. They do it to an extent where it's you get the basic broad overview, because you could be someone coming in new to it, like I explained it. You'd be someone coming in new to it, not having known or heard of anything to do with Jujutsu Kaisen whatsoever, and you can still grasp like basically what is going on, how they're all sorcerers, how they're a part of this school, how essentially they get rid of these cursed things, and they don't go into quite as depth of detail as season 1 of the actual anime. Guys, definitely watch the anime. It's pretty friggin' dope. Like it's awesome. But they don't go into detail of any of that, but they do go into they give you a broad overview for fans who, like I said, being associated with the anime, and for someone who's completely going into it and new into it. And then that's amazing. I understand now why Jujutsu Kaisen does so well in terms of, well, anime popularity first of all. I understand why it does so well in terms of that, and I understand why it does so well in terms of like manga sales too. There's another channel that I watched that they report on with the weekly manga sales of how a manga is essentially doing, and almost every week, essentially, it's Jujutsu Kaisen. It's Jujutsu Kaisen, guys. It's Jujutsu Kaisen. If not, like every issue is being published as one of the most popular things. It's up there. Even if it's one volume or one something, it's definitely up there. So Jujutsu Kaisen is doing numbers. It's one of those bigger animes for sure. and it's doing numbers. It's doing huge things, and it's definitely something that like you should definitely keep your eye on, because it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome, actually. But yeah, let's get back to like analyzing this movie and taking a look at this movie. Like I said, and let's talk a little bit more about like the contrast and the difference of what I was expecting with this movie, if I'm being honest. I know this movie was coming out, and I heard little rumors or murmurings of it or whatever it is, and I thought this movie was going to be essentially I thought this movie was going to be about Gojo and his past. Satoru Gojo is the teacher of Yuji Itadori or whatever it is, and I thought, and they showed him a bit, which he's a fucking beast, guys. We all know this. He's awesome. Gojo's awesome, and like I thought this movie was essentially going to be about him and focused on his past, and it kind of sort of does, but also it kind of doesn't really. It doesn't really focus on that, but I thought that was going to be about him. So I kind of had hints that Yuji Itadori might be taking a back seat of it, but I didn't know he's going to be in the movie whatsoever, like how I explained earlier. Anyway, so what this movie really is about, though, it's about the main character Yuta Okotsu, and how he was basically tied to his childhood best friend. Was essentially like in love with him, the typical anime thing, where you have a childhood friend and you grow up with them, and they essentially, they're gonna fall in love. But so essentially what happened, the story essentially that revolves around him is that when he was a child, she got her life stolen away from her, and essentially what happened was, as a result of that, he developed this connection with her. And at first the movie kind of like it kind of portrayed it as like he's cursed now, and he was the one being cursed by her, and she put this curse on him. And essentially it's like he's gained these abilities and these amazing things that he can do because she wanted to basically be with him forever and stay with him forever. That's the like long and short of it. And I thought that was actually really cool at the beginning, how they kind of showed that, and later in the movie we find out that that's not necessarily the case. It's completely different, but we'll get into that for sure. But I just thought that was very interesting, a very interesting perspective. Like, he goes into this school that essentially is designed for creating these warriors, essentially for creating cursed, getting rid of cursed spirits and cursed objects, and he is immediately confronted with conflict when he walks in the door or whatever, because they think that he's cursed. They think that he's this cursed object, and they think that he's a threat essentially to them. And I think that was that, even that idea, that concept, that's actually pretty cool. So everybody has to kind of like their guards up towards him from off the bat. Enough pressures of being the new kid in school. Along with that, everybody thinks that you're some kind of threat, right? But anyway, so this movie, going back to it in just a overall like overall analyzed, detailed kind of sense, its focus is essentially on, like I said, Yuta, and how he wants to, the first half of it anyway, it's about Yuta and how he wants to control this spirit and essentially make sure it doesn't harm anybody, because right now he's had it with him, and it's been basically out of control. And that's why he joins the JuJutsu Kasien school, to basically get a better handle and better control over these abilities that he's now being gained through his childhood best friend who's been dead. And much like, and I saw this in this format, they kind of sort of mirror the story of what was happening with Itadori, because that kind of happens too, where they find Itadori. Well, the situation is kind of similar, where Itadori is now possessed by Sukuna, how I explained earlier, and he is now wanting kind of sort of the help of the Jutsu sorcerers to kind of control him, and they put him in a situation where it's kind of like, well, if you use your, you have to gain control over this, or essentially you basically die. And those in the beginning, they I liked how they did that. They kind of, because again, I hadn't seen JuJutsu Kaisen in a while. They kind of seamlessly kind of like eased you back into this world of like, and essentially when I started watching it, I was like, okay, yeah, like this is JuJutsu Kaisen. I remember the rules of this world and how it is. They reintroduced the world kind of sort of in the same way as in season 1. Only now like Yuta has this tragic backstory of losing his friend and being cursed, but Itadori willingly took Sukuna, and he essentially gained his abilities. And yeah, and I see the mirroring and the mirroring of those two stories. They have contrasting like backstories as to what was going on with and how they both gained their kind of sort of their abilities. Even though Itadori is kind of like a freaky, he can do other things, which I suspect. And I don't read the manga, guys. Just like a heads up, I'm strictly an anime watcher. Like I know that might be a turn off for some of you or all of you or whatever it is, but just a heads up, Ash does not. I don't read the manga or whatever. I enjoy the production, all of it, as an anime, but. I all I have to say is that I assume that the reason that Itadori is a freak and he has all these abilities and he's so strong and whatever it is right off the bat, before he even had Sukuna or whatever it is, because they did that with the whole episode 1 in the PE class that he's in with him throwing, I think, a baseball or something like that. But anyway, I think my suspicion is that he's actually has some kind of connection, or he is like a cursed. He has some kind of curse before Sukuna entered his body, essentially. Yeah. Anyway, getting back to this movie, Yuji essentially joins the team of the second year students, with the panda guy and the girl with the spear and the guy that only speaks about the guy that only speaks about the sushi. He can only it's cursed speech, basically. Yeah, so Maki, Tenge and Panda, he joins their group, and they're actually part of the main story too, in the actual Jujutsu world. And his first mission, Yuta, he goes along with the group, but they get split up, and he goes with Maki, and he gets partnered up with Maki, and they go on a mission to get this schoolgirl. Not a schoolgirl, well, to rescue these school kids, sorry. They go on a mission to rescue these school kids in the elementary school. And this is where the movie kind of like, essentially the point of this I could see was to create a bond between Yuji between Yuji and Maki, and Yuji and team of the second years in the first place. So they could be more of a team as a bonding. Because if you think about it, Gojo could have just gone in there and just kind of like dealt with it or whatever it is, but he assigned them together and kind of like put them together to do this. I assume maybe there's some kind of test like to get them better too, like, but yeah. Anyway, so they go on this mission and they start bonding, and Maki brings up the point of wanting to see his card. And like, I thought that was so like kind of like a wink to the audience when she's like, oh, your source level, like, what level? Or she started asking what level, and he's like, oh, your source level 0. I think it is 0. Yeah, source level 0 is like you're basically higher than me or whatever it is, or they only go up to like level like 1. But that was kind of like a wink to the audience, because like the movie is called JuJutsu Kaisen 0. But I thought that was pretty That was pretty cool. And then they started to lay some foundation about Maki and how she has certain drawbacks about being able to sense JuJutsu Kaisen energy and stuff. And she's kind of like the Rock Lee, right? Of the, like, again, bringing it back to like Naruto, she's kind of like the Rock Lee of the whole JuJutsu Kaisen world. She has a even the main character, the main villain, what was his name? Suguru was even pointing out that she's a, what do you call it? What was it called? Basically a loser or a nobody, because she had the inability to, much like Rock Lee, how Rock Lee couldn't perform any jutsus or whatever it is, he had to rely on raw strength. She can't necessarily sense she can't necessarily sense any jujutsu energy or anything like that. She can't see any jujutsu energy. Yeah, she can only, from what I understand, like for the most part, deal with stuff on a physical aspect. So they go into the school, and they find these kids, and they're essentially eaten by this giant monster. These kids that essentially went missing. And again, the bond is essentially found. This, like I said, the whole point of this was to form this bond between, or see how this bond was formed between Yuta and this team, because this, I know that this is basically, this story was basically taken from the past, and this is like before Itadori's time or Sukuna and all that stuff. And so it was a kind of a prequel towards basically what's happening in season 1. I know that, guys. I'm not like, I'm in the anime space. I know the anime world of JuJutsu Kaisen. But yeah, also sharing a little bit more about like how I was watching this. I actually watched this in the dub. Surprisingly, really good. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, because like, I mean, like, honestly, dub versus sub, I know that's been a long time battle of like essentially like, some people like the dub, some people prefer the sub or whatever. But like, guys, honestly, in my opinion, as an anime watcher, like, I'll be real, like, the sub is good. You definitely get to hear some like emotion, some more emotive performances sometimes from the sub. But the dub can be really good, because the dub, if you have proper good working voice actors, in my opinion, like, the dub is fine. And you'll probably be hearing me repeat this more and more throughout the episodes and throughout the series that we essentially take on and we watch. The dub is fine. Like, I mean, like, if Naruto's dub was fucking horrible, I know. But like, I guess let's kind of take a real quick break from the JuJutsu Kaisen Zero movie. But like, then the reason to explain to you guys like exactly why I think it doesn't really matter in terms of, for me, anyway, it doesn't really matter if it's dub or, well, it does matter, but here's why it's not a sin to watch the dub. Essentially, that's what it is. Here's why it's not a sin to watch the dub. If they have proper voice actors and if it's good, like, I think it's fine. Like, to just enjoy the dub. Sometimes you just want to like watch things and be doing something else. You want to hear it. You want to hear it in the background, and you just want to like look back at it to see the most epic scenes. That's one reason, and the other reason is essentially that like realistically, those of you who are out there listening to me right now, do you speak Japanese? Do you? And if you do, cool, enjoy it in Japanese. But I don't speak Japanese, dude, and like I want to watch some anime. I like anime, but I don't want to. I know where it comes from. Respect to the Japanese people and where it comes from, and the art and the art style itself. But like realistically, I don't speak Japanese, and like furthermore, like, I mean, I get it if the voices are absolutely ridiculous and annoying like Naruto, but if they're okay, I contrast it to like a Dragon Ball Z voice acting, depending on which dub you go with, it's watchable. It's pretty good. It sounds good. Cowboy Bebop, does anyone really want dub for that? It's pretty good. So there's some anime out there like that has proper dubbing, I feel like, but realistically, I guess I prefer both. Like, I'll watch, even if I've seen it in the dub, I'll watch it still. I would also watch something again in the sub to hear the the Japanese voice actors and see how they performed and how they did it compared to the dub. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Definitely for sure. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Anyway, back to the movie. Yuta forms this bond with these guys, definitely with Maki, by saving her and the kids on his own, by the way. So they kind of establish as like Yuta is not really like he's willing to do the work. And then in that sequence too, he's willing to do the work of getting this thing that he has under control, but he's also the demon that he has like with him under control, but he's also dedicated to being essentially there for his friends, because he basically shoulders the entire group and he carries both of the kids in both hands and Maki on his back to essentially save them while releasing I can't remember the girl's name, while releasing the girls, the demon, not demon, the cursed spirit that was essentially had him under his well, that, but it wasn't necessarily under his control, but like the cursed spirit that was basically aiding him in all this. He was able to release that, and I thought that was so cool. The design for her looks like something. You know what it looks like? It looks like second form Frieza, but like with like a curved head, kind of. So it looks like an Alien, or have you ever seen Alien, that way old 80s movie or whatever it is? It looks like one of those, and it kind of slithers around, and it's pretty. Yeah, it's. I think it's a cool design. It's pretty good. So essentially, after this meeting, Gojo has basically a debrief with these guys that are in charge of, I guess, the school, kind of, sort of, and they are putting pressure on him to. I feel like they almost like put a lot of pressure on him to just essentially say, screw it, like he's too dangerous, just like he should be killed or whatever it is, because they didn't really know what he is and how to control his abilities, almost, kind of, sort of. But Gojo opts and basically fights I actually think this is actually a pretty cool characteristic of Gojo, because we kind of see this in the actual, again, the main series as well. In season 1, Gojo kind of fights for his students to essentially for them not to murder him. And he takes the line when he says like, oh, like if you decide to murder him, I'll side with my student, essentially, and I'll basically just declaring that like he'll fight back or whatever it is. So this is how confident and declarative, I want to say. It's how confident, I guess, he was in the fact that he's able to get him under control and essentially make sure that he's not a menace to essentially society. But and that kind of ranks again, kind of showing his like. That's why I like Gojo. I really like real side on the side here about JuJutsu Kasien. Guys, what do you think about Gojo? I really like Gojo. Gojo is a friggin' cool character, man. Like, realistically, like, come on. Like, Gojo is like, we're gonna get to him when we start talking about the action. It really pumps up. But Gojo's so cool. Honestly, that whole character concept was cool. Like, we've kind of seen it in a little bit of characteristics in anime before. But even that whole resolve, that whole resolve of essentially saying that, you know what, like I'm gonna side with my students. That characteristic, I thought that was actually really, really neat. The fact that he would even say that. Yeah. Anyway, so they go through this mission, and then Yuta is able to basically save the day, and wrap that little section up. But they have a more and then, well, before that, Gojo essentially gives Yuta his like main object, which is basically like a katana, a sword, for him to imbue like cursed energy into, and to try to gain more of a handle essentially on his abilities. And to make the bond even more stronger with this team, they go on the next mission, and this time it's with the guy that only speaks about the sushi stuff, Tege Inumaki. He goes on a mission specifically with just Inumaki, who is, I'm gonna lie, because that, you know what I've noticed about anime and really successful shonen anime, character development. You gotta make some like really badass characters, and like I don't know how they do this, like mangakas or whatever. Like, I don't know how they do this, but they have this ability to create really unique characters that are interesting on their own, that could probably have an entire anime or an entire show on their own, and still work within the realms of a main character. Like, I noticed that with every successful anime. Look at Dragon Ball Z, look at Bleach, look at My Hero Academia, look at all of those shows, and you can definitely pick out more than one, even if there's more than one main character. You can definitely pick out characters that would be like, okay, let's make an anime about this guy, and it'll work. It'll probably work. But anyway, Inumaki. Inumaki's amazing. He has the cursed abilities, the vocal voice curse ability technique, where he could just like say a thing, and that's the reason why he talks in he talks in a way where he only talks about food, and the food words don't necessarily seem to affect anybody. But if he says something like explode or plummet or I don't know, like lift, if he gives like and they seem to be like essentially more or less like commands. If he says any words like that, they essentially happen to his opponent. Just kind of like when they walked in the room and the little fish-like enemies were like swarming the place, and you just like explode, and they just fucking combusted. I thought it was amazing, by the way. Anyway, yeah, he is, and they explain it in the movie where like that's an extremely powerful technique, and I thought that was it's kind of like the, you know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like the one X-Men, not an X-Men, Inhuman? Yeah, the Inhuman. I forget his name. The guy that does the speech when he talks, like he's so friggin' powerful that he can't talk at all. And if he says any kind of word, like things around him basically explode. I forget his name. So he's basically a mute. But when he does talk, it's like it's too much power. So he kind of like reminds me a little bit of him. But Inumaki he's so cool, man. Like the only thing is like his powers, I guess, like take a lot out of him, and it's really hard to essentially control. But overall, like, could you imagine that guy's like just like talking and saying anything and using that in a fight, and it's just like it just happens. That concept and that idea is actually really, really powerful if you think about it. So during this mission with Inumaki, they take care of those little fish guys, but a new enemy appears that they had not essentially prepared for. And this new enemy is kind of like on a whole different level, and they kind of tag team it, further solidifying the bond between Yuta and Inumaki. And I thought that whole fight sequence was pretty cool, for the most part. But this is where they give glimpses of the main. Well, I kind of gave glimpses of the main villain in the first mission, but we really get to see like sort of more than just parts of him. We get to see his face, if I'm not mistaken, in after that whole sequence of then that whole sequence of that whole fight, and when he takes his JuJutsu Kasien card, I think, yeah. So that it's so at least quarter of the way in the movie. Again, it's not being about Itadori at all. It's just being about Yuji, and it's being about him forming these connections and these bonds within this team. Something that did not happen was, I wish that would, I mean, I guess it didn't really need it. I guess if they had done it, the pacing might have been a little bit off. It might have been a little bit weird. So maybe it's a good idea that they didn't necessarily do it. But what would have been cool was that we forgot a fight scene with Panda. Well, not a fight scene, a mission with Panda. That way he would have gotten an opportunity to like bond with all three of them. But Panda's, I don't know, he's Panda. Like, he seemed to be like really cool with him anyway. Like, it didn't really matter that like he didn't get his opportunity to essentially form that bond with, form that fighting bond, I guess, with Utah. But instead, they make the decision to show more about the main villain, who is what's his name again? Suguru, yeah, Suguru Geto. Man, and I gotta admit that after seeing everything he's pretty, again, like every character, if I guess that's like the key to a successful anime, like all the powers and the things that they do, all the abilities and things, and all the supernatural stuff that they can do, like that stuff's definitely important. But if you have a grounded, real, solid character, I think that's what's like more or less like probably even more important, really, than just like having like some like I don't know, having one main character, focusing on him, and having just like okay characters. Because like even like through his introduction and stuff, we automatically kind of tell like what kind of guy that he is, with that whole the whole businessman came to him, and he refers to, sorry, it's funny because we were introduced to him to thinking that, okay, like he's just this JuJutsu sorcerer too, and he's kind of like, all right, like, yeah, like he's just a sorcerer too, and you just assume that, okay, JuJutsu sorcerers, for all we know so far, we've only seen them essentially do good. We've only seen them be good, and this guy is probably good as well, because how we were introduced to him is that this daughter and mother couple come. And what happens is they are essentially greeted by him, and they say, and they say the daughter has essentially like a problem, and he's able to fix the problem by destroying the cursed spirit, while absorbing it, really, and eating it. I know it's weird. That's his ability, eating this cursed spirit that is attached to this young lady, and curing her of it. And so he helped her, and then they walk away, and the second they walk away, they get far enough, he calls them monkeys, and that's the first indication of like he's the villain. Like he wasn't necessarily focused on helping them. He was more or less focused on gaining or absorbing or taking control of the cursed spirit that was essentially there. He wanted to capture the cursed spirit. He wasn't necessarily interested in helping them. And then there is the follow-up scene that's our first indication that he is not necessarily a good guy, or he can't, basically essentially defining that he can't be the protagonist in this. No, he's not the main story good guy, really. He's a little bit selfish in terms of his main motives and main ideas, and this is solidified even more so when a businessman comes about, and he's kind of like, oh, like I need help, I need your help or whatever, you gotta like help me out with the cursed spirit that's basically beyond my back or whatever. And he turns to his assistant, and he's kind of like, well, has he paid his money? Has he paid his money for this month for him to have this cursed spirit ease up off of him? And that's when we kind of get this sense of like greed, and we're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, we see what kind of guy you are. Essentially, like we gotta see what kind of guy you are. Like, oh, you're in it for yourself. You are 110% selfish, and in the weirdest of way, these curses, these little suck things, it sucks on his face so much that they essentially destroy his face and kill him. And they don't blink an eye, really. I thought that was like, that essentially solidified the fact that like, yeah, like he's the villain, he is the bad guy in this or whatever, and he's the leader of this group of other sorcerers that share his ideals. And the group itself is a typical like shonen anime antagonist group. Honestly, it feels like they weren't really anything special to really essentially talk about, if I'm being honest. They were just kind of like, I guess we didn't really get to see them do some cool stuff. The black guy that of the group that fought, like, and we'll get into this because that was just amazing. That fought Gojo, who's, oh man, so good. Anyway, but the guy who fought Gojo, he did some pretty cool stuff. But other than that, the team was pretty lackluster in my opinion. Like, but how he refers to in that same breath, he refers to the to people. He basically goes to his group and he starts having this conversation about how people who aren't JuJutsu sorcerers, who can't see these things, these creatures, these curses, and who can't see and who don't have the ability to manipulate JuJutsu energy and stuff. They are essentially like nobodies. Like it's kind of like the whole plot of like that movie, or the latest one of the latest Harry Potter installments. What's that thing called? Yeah, Fantastic Beast. Yeah, it's kind of like that one Fantastic Beast movie. I can't. It's not Secrets of Dumbledore. It's I think it was maybe Grindelwald, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Yeah, where kind of like there was a lot of discrimination within the wizarding community. I might be wrong about the plot on this, by the way, but like at one point there was and I think in general with the whole Harry Potter world, there was some discrimination between like the Muggles and like the wizards, and they essentially there was like backlash between them for like years, and people believe certain things about Muggles and how they don't deserve, radicalists. It's basically at the end of the day, they just basically showing how he's basically showing the characteristics of a radicalist. He refers to them as monkeys and how they should be eliminated. And it's funny because like right off the bat, he has this conversation about like how they essentially should be eliminated and how we should go about doing that. And the movie wastes no time. And I guess like that's why we probably didn't get like enough. I feel like there wasn't enough we didn't get enough time with these one-note other side shonen B characters that were supposed to be the antagonists, because it was kind of like, okay, here they are, this is how they look, this is what they want to do. Because the next scene they jump right in and they go to essentially Suguru basically goes to visit Yuji and Yuta. Yuji's that's from a different anime. Anyway, he basically goes to visit Yuta, and he kind of basically tells start having this conversation with him about how he believes in a world of just JuJutsu sorcerers. So that whole radicalist like ideal, essentially, like he spouts about, and he kind of portrays this, solidifying his character as an essential radicalist who wants to get rid of them. And furthermore, this is his declaration. He even says this is his declaration of war, essentially to get rid of them. And he lets them know that, hey, like, I'm gonna be starting a war to basically fuck the city up. I'm gonna be releasing all these cursed creatures to fuck the city up, and essentially you guys should be aware of this. So if you would like to stop me, or if you are, because he knows that they're the opposing members who would be the ones essentially to protect the sorcerer, the humans are the ones that essentially do not have this ability to see these cursed objects and who can't basically defend themselves. They're the ones that essentially do this. So he's just like, all right, like if you would like to stop me, like we'll be here at this place and time, essentially to begin this war. And I was thinking to myself, like, first of all, like, why would you just go off and tell? I know it's like a typical anime thing to actually essentially kind of sort of like do that, first of all, I guess. But why would you go and tell him that? Why would you go and tell him like right off the bat? So I was suspicious like off the bat. But either way, Yuta was kind of he was trying to get Yuta, I feel like, to kind of sort of like join him, and Yuta, you know, obviously like refused because how he was referring to Maki as like a failure because she did not have the ability to sense jujutsu energy or whatever, because he kind of lumped her in with that, with basically the humans that can't use jujutsu sorcerer. So he's like kind of like, watch your mouth, like I could kill you too. Yeah, so this whole encounter, I thought, in my opinion, I guess, was pretty cool. It was the bird though, fuck. The giant bird, that was so fucking weird when they first showed up. I forgot about that actually. When they fucking sure showed up with that giant, I hate birds, by the way, but like, not hate them, I'm not a fan of birds, I should say. That giant, I forget what kind of bird that is. It has like the giant beak thing that they were all climbing into and traveling. They traveled by bird. Droid 60, they traveled by birds. That's exactly the way that he talks in Dragon Ball Z Abridged. We're not friends now, Goku. Kill Goku, Son Goku. Okay, all right, I'm done. All right, but they traveled by this giant ass bird, and yeah, it was just weird. And they made their escape essentially because Suguru Geto has the ability to capture these cursed creatures and summon them at his own will, essentially. And he surrounds the students, including Yuta and the rest of the team, to make sure that he can essentially get away safely, and which he does. But yeah, that was the whole interaction there. And again, I thought that was so weird, and then the reason they actually say like, well, you know, like why, and my feelings were correct, because this whole thing, it turns out, is a diversion to basically his main plan. Geto's real plan was to essentially get Yuta alone so he could steal the special cursed spirit that is attached to him. Because apparently this cursed spirit is so unique and it can do so many things, and technically he shouldn't have it because he doesn't have any ties to any special family as far as they knew at the time. He didn't have any ties, or the spirit the creature didn't have any ties to any significant strong families or anything like that, so he shouldn't have it. So he thought it was a unique thing that he could definitely use to control and manipulate, to further further conquest of basically wiping out the entire human race, because like if you don't want to classify as sorcerers as humans, I guess, kind of sort of, but it's so essentially he's a radicalist, try to do that, yeah. But thankfully Gojo figures this out, and so the war starts. Yeah, let's just really get into this. The war starts essentially, and Gojo figures it out, and he orders Panda and Inumaki to go to back to the school to essentially help Maki, who is at the school, along with Yuta, along with Yuta. And what's weird, what I was thinking about just now too, what's weird is why didn't he go? Why wasn't he on the battlefield? Because Gojo, oh yeah, I think they explained it as like he was too valuable to them, or he didn't have his like abilities maybe like completely under control quite yet. I think that's what it was. And I guess, but still, I feel like it was something I don't think it's a plot hole, but like really, when you really think about it, I just think, when Gojo first realized that this is a trap and they were going after Yuta, why didn't he just go? I guess maybe he thought that he was more needed there because he was just about to fight the guys with the rope, the black guy with the ropes. I guess that's how he felt he needed to stay there. But if the Yuta was the goal and he wanted to essentially Geto Geto wanted to essentially kill Yuta, why didn't Gojo just go there to like essentially like stop him? Anyway, Satoru Gojo stays to fight that black guy with the ropes. And Maki tries to fight Suguru, and it doesn't work out. Like, we knew it wasn't gonna work out. But real quick, I want to go back to the fact that the black guy, and I keep referring to him as the black guy, but his name is Miguel. I want to go to, and apparently Google, describes him as the tall, slim, dark-skinned African man whose eyes and hair both normally covered by accessories. Yeah, in this beret-looking hat. I want to go back to that because here's the thing, and I want to talk about, like, again, I'm such a fan of Satoru Gojo. Like, I think honestly, like, he's his whole character is probably one of the best things I think, like, of the, I think one of the best things of the entire series. Like, from Satoru Gojo's like character design, we kind of like get like a kind of like a Kakashi kind of vibe with his hair, and like, yeah, Kakashi, and I feel like another character. They should. There's that meme on Facebook, right? Like, he's just a mix of Kakashi and someone else, anyway. But like, the Kakashi kind of style here. But like, so and guys, let me know if you felt this way too. Because when that black guy was Miguel, the black guy, yes, Miguel, was so excited to fight Satoru Gojo because he had heard of him. He was like, oh, Satoru Gojo, he's like, he has so many he has so many abilities, like, or whatever. It's like, I can't basically essentially, like, I can't wait to fight him or whatever. And I was thinking to myself, from seeing the anime, I was thinking to myself, like, fuck off. Like, really? Like, you're excited to fight this guy? I was like, dude, you have no chance. You have no chance. Like, I was like, dude, you're about to get fucked. Like, I was like, dude, you are about to get your shit wrecked, my friend. You're about to get wrecked. You're like, it's Satoru Gojo. And the thing is, in the first season of JuJutsu Kasien, only from an anime standpoint, up until that point, until he fights the guy named, I think it's George he fights, or he fights some other thing. For the most part, for like 80%, and let me know if you guys agree, because seriously, 80% of this anime, it's just basically, it's been about Yuji Itadori and how he's fighting Sukuna and how he's getting used to his abilities, and it's about Fushiguro, and it's about Kukusuki, Nobara. It's about those three characters. They're the three main people. They're the Naruto, they're the Sakura, they're the Sasuke. Here's the thing. Towards the end of that season, they explain Gojo's powers, and they do it in this anime too. I mean, and they do it in anime. They do it in this movie too. No, not really actually, but okay. They sort of explain Gojo's powers, but anyway, that doesn't even really matter. Towards the end of the anime, and only towards the end of the first season of the anime, they start to explore what Satoru Gojo is. I say what he is because Satoru Gojo's fucking amazing, actually, if you think about it. And I remember that fight. I don't remember much from the first season, but I remember how he fucked up George or whatever that cursed monster was or whatever it is, and he starts to explain how his abilities work. And they're god level, dude. If you think about it, they're god level. He even says it himself. The Miguel even says it himself. He's like, oh, he has the ability to basically interpret and control space and time. It's all due to his eyes. Fuck yeah. And dude, most of the time his eyes are like closed or wrapped in bandages, and he can still kick ass. Like, Gojo is ridiculous. So when he was like so excited to fight him, and I was just like, no, I was just like, get out of here, come on, what do we, you got no chance, bro. You got no chance. Like, like, you're about to get wrecked, my friend. You are about to get wrecked. Like, Gojo is ridiculous if you think about it, his abilities, man, what he can do and how he can manipulate. He's kind of sort of like, his powers kind of sort of remind me of like Pain from Naruto, but like he's a mixture from Pain from Naruto, but also a mixture. He can do those like energy blasts from like Dragon Ball Z too, dude. What? Like, what? Really? I mean, he's just, in my opinion, I sort of wondered about this, and we're gonna talk about this in the next section that we do for episodes 1 and 2. But I'm wondering if he's like too powerful, if he's too overpowered, because like, god damn, dude, like seriously, like god damn, like anyway. I thought that was really funny. He was like, oh, I'm so excited to like fight him. But maybe it's the challenge because he knows he's a badass too. Gojo is, if there was a guy, you know what I mean? If there was a guy, like Gojo's the guy. If you know, come on, that should say it enough for itself. If there's a Gojo is that guy. If there was a guy, Gojo's that guy. I'm just saying. Anyway, man. So despite, you know, Panda going there, Panda's little fight with Suguru was pretty good too. But like, despite Suguru and Inamaki going there trying to stop this thing from happening, it doesn't work out. They get their asses kicked, and Maki's down, Panda's down, Inamaki's down. Like they're all down, and it's just Yuta. It's just Yuta and Suguru Geto now, and he has to kind of essentially fight him on his own. And we've seen him do some pretty cool stuff. Yuta I'm talking about now. We've seen Yuta do some pretty cool stuff, and we've also seen Suguru do some pretty cool stuff. But you know, I didn't really know how this fight was gonna go. If I'm being honest, I didn't have any really expectations for this fight. But this was a really good fight. This was a really, really well animated fight as well. This was good. This is just a really, really good fight. Like I don't really have any. If I'm being honest, I can't really point out anything bad about it. It was very JuJutsu Kasien kind of like fight. Like it was good. The animation was great. I love how they did that first person stuff. That was actually really good. That seems to be becoming like almost like kind of like somewhat of a staple, because they did it in the Dragon Ball Z movie too. They didn't do it in Superhero, but I did it in the Dragon Ball Z Broly movie. So that was kind of cool. And when they did that, we got to see first, and it was like just for a split second, we got to see a first person perspective of like Yuta doing some really cool stuff with his blade, with his katana. And then anyway, there's a pause in the fight where the soul girlfriend who he's attached to basically gets jealous towards him about the girl being able to spend more time with him. I thought that was a cute, mundane, very cute mundane moment where the cursed spirit was essentially getting jealous because he's spending so much time with the one female friend amongst the group. But anyway, so they go back to fighting, and I thought something that this is so cool. What was so cool was when he used the microphone to essentially steal Inamaki's move of the cursed voice thing. Dude, I didn't even know he could do that, but like that was so cool. Like he's just like explode or something like that, or be destroyed or something like that. So that mic came out of nowhere. First of all, the first he just like materialized the mic, and he was just like, yeah, like, and then like they all kind of like died, and yeah, he's like die, and they all kind of like died. That's what it was. Yeah. Just trying to remember exactly what he said. I'm pretty sure he said die. Yeah. And he comments about how like the voice manipulation speech thing is actually like really more difficult than like, but the fact that he could like steal moves and stuff was so cool. And basically the fact that he didn't need any help. He didn't need to get any help from essentially anyone really. He did it on his own, and it was amazing. It was truly amazing. Yeah, I want to go back to Satoru Gojo really quick though, and as predicted, like when he's fighting Miguel. I'll say this: that fight was it was awesome. Actually, it was so good. Miguel had the ropes, but he also had the aid of the creatures that was summoned by Suguro Geto, and he was essentially fighting against Satoru Gojo, and he was putting up a decent fight, an okay fight in my opinion. But like realistically, like, come on, it's Satoru Gojo. We got little clips of that Iron Man looking dude. I forget his name. I'm not gonna remember all the characters, guys. I'm sorry. I know. We got clips of that Iron Man looking guy. We got clips of the different. Other jujutsu sorcerers that are essentially within the story who've been at least introduced to us, I think, throughout season 1. So I think, like I said, like there is definitely something for everyone. There's definitely something for everyone in terms of like this new and old, in terms of this movie, and I liked how they did that. And I think this is the first movie for Jujutsu Kaisen, so I guess like that makes sense. Like most of the time they do that, but they brought about some of the just the old characters of the different squads, but the old characters of the different years of Jujutsu Kaisen into the fold, just to show kind of hate on Forget About Us. But they didn't really do anything significant, but it's still kind of cool. That was for, I think definitely that was more for like seasons participants of the show, seasons viewers of the show, people who like really like essentially like love the show, to like be like, hey, don't forget about these guys, like, you know, and maybe we'll see them like in the next movie. But yeah, this movie was pretty cool. I gotta admit, this movie was pretty neat. Like, honestly, and it's epic climax with that burst of energy at the end, just kind of like the grand finality climax of everything coming to a head, where he trades his life, or essentially, which, I mean, I guess he didn't really die, so like I wonder how that kind of worked. Like he essentially traded his life for more power when it comes to Rika, to gain more control with Rika, the spirit that was the girl spirit that was attached to him, and he destroyed half of like this temple in the attempt of stopping Geto. And also in the comments, let me know what you guys think. Geto lost an arm because of this. This is the conclusion of it. He lost the arm. But do you guys think that Geto's dead? Like, I mean, like, I feel like, like, honestly, like, I don't know. Like, he might be dead. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, like, his character is so significant, and we won't get much into it now, but the new season of Jujutsu Kaisen looks like it's like a prequel, same thing as the movie. It's kind of like a prequel to where we were in season 1 with Itadori, and it kind of, that focuses on Satoru Gojo's past and etc. And he's there, so Geto seems like I don't know. Like, also, do you guys want him to be dead? Like, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I'm being honest. I guess just to wrap everything up and to make this a significant like story or a significant event that happened in the Jujutsu Kaisen world, Geto being dead would make sense. But I don't know. He was a powerful villain that apparently they had like a very strong connection, friendship with, that Satoru Gojo says basically that, I mean, hey, he was my best friend. So there's that. I mean, they had a connection. And he is a part of their world or whatever. And he was, from what it looks like, they were on the same side at one point. So, and he is an extremely powerful sorcerer. So I don't know, but indications said that he died during this whole event. and Yuji, who was supposed to die, they wrapped it up very nicely. And it turns out, like how I was mentioning in the beginning, that the cursed had essentially been lifted from her because she was the one being cursed by him instead of her basically cursing him with these abilities. But she was the one that basically cursed. He was the one that basically cursed her because it turns out that Satoru Gojo and Yuta are actually related. So no wonder they're both badasses. So it all kind of sort of like wraps itself up, the movie, and it makes sense and they connect everything. But something that I found that was actually really, really interesting was the epilogue of this. I don't know if you guys sticked around until the end of the credits, but I usually do. I'm kind of weird like that, but it's okay. So at the end of these credits, they actually find themselves, and you can tell it's a few years later because like his hair's grown out, he looks a little taller and bigger, Yuta that is, and it looks like they're in Africa. They show the zebras and the zebra and then like the actual like some wildlife in the background and like the actual inner cities of Africa. And guess who's there? It's fucking Miguel, the guy who Gojo was fighting in the city. So I mean, it kind of sort of looks like, I don't know, he's there and he's talking to Yuta, and Yuta is, look, like I said, he looks a little bit bigger, he looks a little bit older now. He's wearing the same thing he wore in the movie, but he's a little bit older. And I'm wondering, like, so what happened? Like, so I was like, so like they're in Africa, they're in this guy's home country, they're on the same side. Something must have happened, and then Gojo shows up, and then it's over. And it's kind of like, oh, well, what the fudge? Anyway, I just thought that was actually, that was not a bad epilogue though. All things considered. Yeah, all things considered, is not a bad epilogue. Something must have happened where I guess the guy Miguel switched sides, obviously. And for them to all be talking in peace like that, and for him to essentially be alive, because like, I guess he could have killed him too. But yeah. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this episode of On Review Podcast, along with the movie. We want to hear your feedback for sure here at OnReviewCast Anime. And you know, I really enjoyed this movie. Before we go, we're definitely going to get the On Review score for JuJutsu Kaisen 0, which is
Jaggy Akutami's JuJutsu Kaisen 0 receives a 5 out of 5.
And as always, guys, we can't forget about Ash's favorite scenes. Definitely one of my favorite scenes was when Rika first came out. We got to first see the design of Rika and see how she basically looks and basically aids Yuta getting out of that building to help those kids. And then I think the second favorite scene was definitely Gojo's fight with Miguel. That was so cool. And he just started go to town, and but he wasn't even using any powers. He was just like, it was just like fist to fist, like hand to hand combat. The animation there was amazing. And then lastly, the favorite scene was of course got to be the finale with Yuta and Yuta's like favorite blast of Yuta and Geto when he used that like giant beam on Geto for the finale. That was great. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of On Review Cast. Like I said before, don't forget to hit us up on our socials, the Facebook, the Instagram, and the Twitter, and the YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe to all the YouTube things. The channel really needs your support and needs your help. We really appreciate all of it here at On Review Cast. And lastly, guys, don't forget, be safe, be kind, be you.